rainfall for this area is relatively low, with a high variable rainfall between 345 to 370. The rainfall is usually winter dominant, although there is more summer rainfall than most other winter dominant areas.
The soil type that is present at Jamestown, South Australia is red-brown earth clays that are mildly acidic with a pH of 5.6.
Pasture that's grown here on my farm is vetch, grass mix, medic and lucerne. These pastures are suited to our climate. Vetch, medic and lucerne are all nitrogen fixing legumes, benefiting the soil and improving the quality of feed for the livestock such as sheep. The pastures mixed with grasses support high grazing. Vetch is a versatile, high production, low input crop, well suited to a wide range of soils and rainfall areas. The pasture is a winter growing multi-purpose annual legume with a recorded biomass of 5 to 10 tonnes per hectare of dry matter. As well as benefiting the livestock throughout grazing, vetch provides control options for resistant weeds in cereal rotations as well as nitrogen fixing ability. Lucerne is a perennial summer growing legume used in grazing rotation as a long-term pasture. The incorporating of lucerne into our pasture rotation is valued as it is offered green feed over the summer months. Lucerne is well suited to the environment as its deep tap root system have access to water at depth in the soil profile, allowing it to survive the warmer period. Lucerne is adapted to a range of soil types, grown best in sandy soils. Lucerne is well suited as it is drought tolerant. Lucerne pastures was chosen for this particular region as it can support our grazing enterprise of 2,500 sheep, providing sufficient feed during the tougher months. 30% of the farm will be cropped with barley in order to provide additional feed if required, as well as an extra income. The remaining 60 to 70% of the farm will be allocated to pasture and livestock. Rotational grazing will occur on our farm, having food on offer for the 2,500 sheep grazing on a 2,100 acre pasture over the course of a year that are vetch, medic, grass mix and a lucerne. The general model of profit making in our mixed enterprise is prime lands and the sales of vetch hay.
The vetch, lucerne, medic and grass pastures require the inputs of herbicides, fungicides, pesticides and inoculants to ensure high yielding product feed. Successful management and practice of these inputs will greatly benefit the pasture. Some fungicides have large grazing withholding periods, thus the required fungicides may not always be an option. Fungicides are required before or at the first signs of disease, with protection lasting 10 to 12 days. There are 3 critical fungicide spraying periods: early vegetative, before canopy closure and end of flowering. Fungicides are used in vetch pastures to prevent and treat the infection of rust, chocolate spot and Botrytis grey mould. As well as inputs for disease, vetch pastures require strong integrated pest management. Pests common in vetch include mites, lucerne flea and aphids. The required input of pesticides is most critical during the seedling development of both vetch and medic pastures. Medic pastures are managed the same as vetch in regards to IPM, as they acquire the same pests. Some major diseases in these pastures include root, lesion nematode and powdery mildew. Lucerne pastures are vulnerable to many diseases, including bacteria wilt and stem nematodes. Pesticides are used to control red-legged earth mites, lucerne flea, aphids and weevils. Aphids do the most damage during the early growth and flowering of the pasture, similar to the mites, who will do worse damage during seedling emergence and early growth. Rhizobia inoculants are required to ensure efficient nodulation in the root activity. The inoculant strain, Group E for vetch, is applied to the seed before sowing. Fertilisers, including trace elements and superphosphate, are applied to all pastures before sowing. These fertilisers are important before sowing as there are limited stores in the soil. The specific elements required by the pastures will depend on deep soil and leaf sample tests. Fertiliser inputs are low in comparison to the other required inputs, as they are sown in cereal rotation. There are many potential environmental benefits from the production of both the livestock and pasture systems. Lucerne, vetch, medic and grass pastures provide the most environmental services, improving the structure, health and use of the soil. The legume pastures fix atmospheric nitrogen, improving nutrient cycling, water and nutrient use. The deep root systems maintain pore spaces, allowing the ease of infiltration and movement of water and air, reducing the effect of runoff. The pastures act as cover crops, protecting the topsoil from harsh climatic conditions, reducing soil erosion. The plant residues release nutrients into the soil, increasing the organic matter of the soil, as well as encouraging the activity of soil microbes. Pastures retain soil moisture and suppress weeds. Pastures also serve environmentally as a non-selective weed control alternative for minimising the risk of herbicide-resistant weeds in cropping phases of rotations. Pastures improve weed management, vetch in particular, creating opportunities for grass-selective herbicides. In the livestock system, the selection of these pastures create many environmental benefits. Pastures produce large amounts of dry matter, fixing high levels of nitrogen. Weeds will be managed through good integrated weed management with use of herbicides during the growth stages to control grass and broadleaf weeds. Herbicide options for broadleaf weed control in vetch is limited to pre-emergent as a result of built-up resistance. Before sowing, the paddocks are applied with herbicide knockdowns to eliminate summer weeds and to clean the seed bed. Lucerne pastures are sown into clean seed beds to reduce the competition for sun between the young lucerne seedlings and the weeds. Grass weeds will be sprayed during the early growth stages, followed by broadleaf weed sprays. Weed potential is limited in medic pastures and it's a strong competitor for fertile soils. More common and effective methods for selective herbicides include spray grazing and spray topping. In lucerne pastures, weeds can be managed in many alternative ways, including being cut for hay, grazed by livestock, or through the incorporation of herbicides.
So feed availability and utilisation is going to be crucial on this farm, as the productivity of grazing sheep is largely dictated by the amount of pasture eaten and the quality. Limited rainfall in this area can lead to poor pasture growth and low nutrient availability, therefore correct management and pasture rotation is suggested. Weaner, gestating and lactating sheep require at least 15% protein, 65% digestibility and 11.5 megajoules per metabolised energy per hectare per day in order to ensure that livestock weight, fat score targets and overall health is not compromised. The rotational grazing of the medic and vetch grass mixed pasture, this provides a large amount of protein, energy and digestibility that is essential for the flock. The high digestibility is necessary in a low rainfall area as much of the nutritional value is going to be digested and utilised by the livestock and not lost in the faeces. This vetch grass mix will be cut for hay and should predominantly be used as a supplementary feed throughout the summer months and autumn feed gap when food on offer in the pastures is considerably low. The grass mix will also add bulk to the hay, providing additional energy and fibre for the sheep. Throughout the summer months, Lucerne is able to utilise the variable summer rainfall, providing high quality grazing in an otherwise dry pasture. This pasture will allow the livestock to access green feed throughout the drier months and again provide essential protein, energy and digestibility, which can be helpful when finishing off lambs in January. Of maintaining sufficient feed which is available at correct quality and time is incredibly important when farming in a low rainfall area and trying to achieve specific condition scores and targets. During the autumn months, the livestock should be kept off the germinating vetch and medic grass pastures, and it's important not to graze pasture through its phase 1 growth stage. This is because the growth rate of the pasture is quite low and therefore will not successfully meet the energy requirements of the sheep, while also depleting the root reserves of the pasture, which can lead to poor growth and lower food availability for the upcoming winter-spring months when the flock needs it the most. Instead, they should stay on the lucerne pasture and vetch stubble whilst also being supplementary fed with the hay and barley harvested from the previous year to tide them over through the autumn feed gap. Through the winter and spring months, the ewes should be rotated on the medic and vetch grass pasture whilst they're gestating and lactating. The food on offer will be at its highest, largely due to the pasture being in their phase 2 growth stage, which produces high quality feed that in effect creates higher sheep productivity. The vetch should be grazed on from late autumn to spring until it begins to flower and then put back onto the stubble once the hay has been cut. The medic will also begin to flower, creating a seed bank for the next year's pasture. Therefore, it will be important to remove the sheep at this time, as the birds in the medic can decrease wool value, as it is likely the sheep will be shorn at this time. A further reason for removing them before flowering is to reduce the risk of bloat. Sheep are ruminant animals and can therefore produce large amounts of gas as an effect of eating fresh green pastures such as medics and vetch, creating a build-up of gas. To combat this bloating risk, a bloat mixture should be applied to the water troughs as well as to access to dry hay. Summer to autumn months will be the time where green feed availability is at its lowest due to the limited rainfall at this time. Therefore, the livestock should be rotated between the vetch stubble and lucerne paddocks. Due to limited food on offer in the pastures, the vetch grass mixed hay and barley harvested from the previous year should be given as supplementary feed due to having a large number of weaner sheep at this time of year. There's a risk that they will incur deficiencies as nutrient availability is at its lowest. A deficiency of vitamin E from feeding stock on dry feed with little access to green feed for extended periods of time can reduce wool production, ewe fertility, immune responses and can cause white muscle disease. Therefore, for these reasons, supplements should be given during the dry months, as well as being able to graze on green lucerne pasture will have a part in preventing such deficiencies.
Thanks for watching!